an animal, all those things you get for $112. I don't know that you have to compare that to other things that every household has anymore. Okay, I'm lightly touching it. So think about if you go get a 15-gallon tank of gas at $397.9, you should pick a different place because that's expensive. That'd be $59 for that tank. An average cell phone bill is $144. Your car insurance $134, an energy bill $116. If you have YouTube, Disney Plus, and Netflix, you'd pay about $103 a month. So really, we're a typical staple, I guess, in a household in Spring Hill. Let's see if it'll go back. I think I need to go back one more. Right here. Okay, so with that, I'm going to open it to the public for comments. I want to remind the folks that are here tonight, I know there's other topics on the agenda that some people are here for, that this part of the agenda tonight is about the budget for 2025 or the capital improvement plan for 2025. In this part, we're not talking about housing and zoning and things like that. There will be another portion of the agenda they can make their comment then. This is meant for comments. This isn't a debate. Tonight, we're kind of used to this, just laying some ground rules. I plan to write down questions and make sure that when I speak again, I can address things people ask, unless, of course, one of you would like me to answer a question, just call on me. I'll be happy to do that. And with that, I give the floor over to public comment.
So once again, just to reiterate, this is a public comment just for the public hearing on the budget. We didn't have anybody actually sign up on that form, but we did have Mr. Aravalo. You signed up on the other form, but for the budget. So if you would like to talk about the budget, now would be the time. And once again, if you could just state your name and your address, please.
Rodolfo Arevalo. I live at 19419 West 200th Street. And I basically have three questions related to the budget. One is, can you provide the amount that's going to be bonded by the 2.912 increase in the budget debt service? Because it's not mentioned anywhere in the budget that I reviewed, and that would give me a sense of where the money is going to go to. Mainly because as I looked at the debt service line that you have in your budget, it indicates that the amount of ad valorem tax for that $4,16459 expenditure is going to be $793,000 and change. If I multiply your mill levy, how much a mill levy against the 2.913, it only generates $542,892. So why are you budgeting more than the 2.9 mil increase? Anyhow. In addition, as I look at the budget, it's also indicated that you are not going to utilize, at the end of 25, you're estimated that you'll have $2.535866 million left. It's not budgeted, so it's going to be leftover dollars, if you will. So my question is, instead of raising the mill levy 2.9, why don't you lower what you're going to have left at the end of the year? Knowing Ms. Dunn, she always does conservative estimates. So my feeling is that that 2.5 million at the end of the year is going to be closer to 2.8, 2.9 million. So I would ask you to consider that as a way not to raise and provide more of the funding up front for the work to be done, especially on the improvements on 199th Street. The other is, it would be interesting also to know what the total amount of non-expended dollars or reserves in other accounts that the city can utilize. In other words, they're not mandated for a specific use, but they can be used across city budgets. If we knew how much that was, that's another source of funding that you could use to increase, instead of just having 1.4 million in cash to use for road improvements, you could maybe raise it to $2 million. And therefore you'd have to bond less dollars at the end. And that's basically my 3 questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Can you answer those questions for me?
If you have answers for them now, yeah. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Next time.
Oh,
I'd like everyone to know that I'm working at a golf tournament for charity tomorrow, and Rodolfo is going to be my golf cart partner all day tomorrow. And I will take all of my books with me, and we will have a long discussion about cash tomorrow. So I look forward to that. So to address his questions, he asked about the amount of the project on 199th Street. The total cost of that project is about $9 million. If you look at the CIP plan, there is a page for this project specifically. I think it's about page 31 and 32. Of that $9 million, we get about $3 million from Johnson County. So the net cost at the high end to the city is about $6 million. We will continue to work to get, maybe there'll be a special benefit district involved. Maybe there'll be developers who put money in. Maybe some other taxing entities will put in. And we today do not know the net amount that will be bonded when the project's completed. We also don't know actual construction costs yet. So we plan for it to be far less than $6 million. Dovetailing that into his next question about the debt service line is $793,000. The payment, the 2.912 mills, does generate $542,000 in new revenue into that fund, which is meant to pay when we bond this project. The other $250,000 is the current mill levy in debt, which is 1.31 mills, which is already in that fund. So we're adding to the existing revenue that goes in the debt service fund to pay other debt. The next question, he said, we will have $2,535,866. He's correct on that. And I'll go back in the presentation. Everyone cross your fingers. Nope, that is correct. When you look at that page I had up there that showed the bottom line of 2.5 or 2.3 million left. I'm hoping. Two lines above that, it shows that actually, it's the blue line that says beginning fund balance is $14,738,000. That's the cash that we estimate we have at the beginning of the year. So in this budget, we are using down the cash. We're giving the authority to spend from 14.8 million, 14.7 down to 2.5. When the budget is a 32 or $33 million budget, and our target for cash reserves is 50%, we should have $16 million left at the end of the year, not 2.5 million. So the math is correct. We have budgeted for you to be able to spend the majority of your reserves if you needed to. However, we will not be left with 2.5 million at the end of the year because that will be near disaster level for us. Because he asked about the other total non-expended cash in other accounts, that's what that money is that we budget for you to spend it if you need to. And we have to be very careful not to get too deep in the weeds. Each fund has a purpose and a law that allows us to have it. So the utility funds don't build roads. The bond funds don't get spent on people. That money is spent where we said it would be spent. So we can't just pick money out of any pocket and pay for things that we want to do. You have given us the challenge. I covered cash a few weeks ago, and you've given us the challenge to put that cash to work on our projects. And when we get to 199th Street with the mill levy that we need to do, we'll apply the cash that makes sense when that time comes. I'm budgeting 1.4 million. You may decide it's 2 when we get there. Depends on a lot of other factors, where we are to targets, where we are on revenue, all those pieces. So I hope that answered all of his questions. If not, I'm sure he'll pepper me with them tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
So explain a little bit about the 1.4 million in terms of what, get in the weeds with that a little bit,
Okay.
what you're going to do with that when you think about if we're going to be taking out a note for the project and we have to have, we're raising the mill levy to get 540,000, but then you have this 1.4 million. Can you explain how that works?
You bet. I included the 1.4 million as a reduction to the actual total amount of the project in the budget for the amount we would need for the payment. So the 2.9 is net of using that 1.4 million. My plan there is best use. If we choose to spend it up front and reduce how much we borrow, temp note for the project for construction loan, basically, we can do that. If we choose to borrow the full amount and then pay down before we actually bond, that's an option as well. We'll make a lot of decisions between budget today and the time that we actually borrow the money for construction and then bond as well. So we will, highest and best use, put that money to work for the projects. You could choose to spend it and pay cash for another project and bond this one. We'll kind of make the best decision when we get there, but I have netted it into this mill levy.
Well, and I'm sure we'll look at all the options and see which one saves us the most money, whether it makes sense
Right.
to pay for a smaller project in full cash versus
Right.
the debt payment or debt service.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments up here from Ms. Rhonda?
To skip over to the expense budget fund that you've got here for 25, what's the other budgeted is 3.6 million. What is that allocated to?
Other budgeted
It's the 2025 expense budget by fund.
on this page or in?
No, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the actual.
Oh, okay. Those are other funds. That comes to mind to me is like the healthcare reserve fund. We budget that if you need to spend that if you can. It could be all of the project funds. It's all of the other budgeted funds that are not the ones that I've listed here. We have about 35 or 40 funds. Some of them are not budgeted and some of them are budgeted. And these are the ones that are included in the budget document, but they're smaller. I just didn't list them all.
Seem like excise, the healthcare. fund,
Yes.
All that stuff.
Yeah, really quick.
Sales taxes.
Before we get too much further, do we want to close, probably should close the public hearing?
Yeah.
As long as there's no more public comment, I don't want to cut anyone off, but if we're going to move to our
yeah.
questions or your questions for staff, not ours. Be a good time to do that, so.
Is that all the presentation you had, Mrs. Dunn?
I do want to make some last comments. Everyone got to hear.
This. Can we close?
I'll go ahead and close the hearing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh,
It doesn't mean, Ms. Dunn, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to make sure we.
All right, we'll go ahead and close the budget hearing at this time, and then now you have the floor.
You got it. Before I turn it over to you, I just wanted to put in comment about what, I know you guys are making a really hard decision tonight, and no one wants to sit in your chair tonight, I promise you that, and you're probably all wondering why you sat down in that chair. But tonight isn't just about raising a mill levy to put more money in the coffers. This is specific for you to do some really positive impacts to this community. We have people who are asking for improved public safety in some very important intersections. We have people who come in to talk about other zoning projects and other things, and they worry about riding their bike on 199th Street. They worry about the development that's going to happen there, we hope, and how we're going to deal with that traffic in that area where kids are going to school. So you really have the opportunity tonight to address those things for the community and things that they're asking for. I would also point out to you that economic development, when everyone says we want commercial, we want a nice restaurant, we want to get a McDonald's, get a Taco Bell, get all those places. Taco Bell's not going to go at 191st and 169 until there's a stoplight. That's not ever going to work for their business model. Same with McDonald's. So you really can impact the wants of the community. Some could say needs, but some of the wants of the community. I'd also remind you, in all the work we've done coming up to this, Ben Hart from Baker Tilly came in and told you that the city's in the best financial shape it's been in a number of years. And you're making decisions in the right direction financially to accomplish the things you want to accomplish. And I wish you would trust the process. We've worked our way through to tonight. We've talked, we've discussed, we've worked through these projects. We've been, wringing our hands about this now for more than a year. And there are many more decisions to be made. And I hope you're the council that gets to make them as we go along, but I feel like you're in the right spot. We continue to do more with what we've got, and we haven't raised the mill levy for the operation. We're raising it to get some things done very specifically, and we're setting ourselves up for the future. So I hope in all the things that you're hearing from the public that you keep in mind that those are the things you've worked on to get us to tonight. And I would turn it over to you for discussion.
All right. I just want to state that we are moving on to formal council action. The first item on the agenda is consider approval of the 2025 operating budget. And with that, if you have anything more to add, otherwise I'll open it for discussion here.
No, I do not.
I have a question about 183rd intersection.
Yes,
So we're now anticipating we're going to be paying for that?
we are preparing for that.
They dropped, I looked into that too. The developer pulled out.
So that's over.
Correct.
We hope someone else would pick that up.
Okay.
Are the, if somebody else picks it up, are they tied to the same agreements that we had with that developer, or is it totally different?
I'm not a developer, but I don't believe so. No, I
The
don't.
short answer would be no.
Right.
But what we will do is we'll continue to pursue CIDs or any other funding mechanisms and try to work with them to pick up a portion of that cost, if not all of it, if we can.
And similar to 191st Street, we're, exploring all avenues to try to come up with funding for that. I mean, we've gone state level to federal level, lots of different options, trying to get some grants and different things, because we know, especially 191st Street, but also 183rd Street, those are pretty dangerous intersections that we've all talked about for quite a few years. And so we know we have to do something, and as soon as possible. So we will explore other options to try to save all of us as much money as possible, and save the city money and save the citizens money ultimately.
Well, and also I think it needs to be said of how much it's going to cost. So it's $3 million for the stoplights. Both stoplights would be $6 million, and that includes the infrastructure for the turning lanes and all that right of way.
Yeah, those are
Roughly, yes.
those are rough estimates at this time. We have not bid the project. Those are just rough numbers from the engineer at this time.
The 191st Street project is in your CIP detail.
Right.
As well, so you can see some of the
I know, I'm
details.
just stating
Yeah.
out loud.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to hear and
Yep.
understand it, yeah.
Some question.
Go for it.
All right. So, can you break down what the economic development cost is on the on the expense by department?
You bet. The primary cost there and the increase this year, we have the allocation we make to the Spring Hill Chamber of Commerce is in there. And as requested by council, I did reduce that on the economic development side from 10,000 to 5,000 a year. The other major piece or change is we budgeted for some software we think we would want to use in the city. It hasn't been purchased yet or anything like that. And then it's about demand and lots of details. And then we did hire the contractor, Heartland, I think is the name of the company, who is doing economic development services for us. And his contract is $90,000 a year.
Okay.
It's budgeted at 90,000, yeah.
And have we gotten any traction from that? I mean, I guess that's a Lane and Pat question. Has there been much that's come from that
No,
partnership?
at this time, we have not on, a lot of the industrial projects, and I may defer to Pat on this, but a lot of the industrial projects that we get from the state of Kansas have, in the last few months, just completely dried up. Doug has been working on some of our policies and procedures. I just got an email from him today about, I think website, some information we're going to try to redo on the website. So the short answer is no. I think shortly after that, probably in the last couple of months, it's really dried up on the industrial side.
Can I piggyback on that for a minute? So that's roughly $7,500 a month that we're paying and not reaping any benefits from.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think economic development is one of those items that it takes many months, if not in some cases years, to gain a benefit. Sometimes you get lucky and get some of those big items. I know internally, we're already having those discussions of how we want to restructure that contract, maybe pause it for a period of a few months or 6 months to see if the economy or the industrial side of the economic development turns around. And I would anticipate that occurring this year. Yep.
Okay. I guess the other comment I have, I'm just not for the increasing of the mill levy. I think there's other ways we can figure it out. I know we went through and we had some of those open positions that you sent out, which was great. I think looking at maybe pulling those from the budget, keep it at a flat mill levy, and then we use, if one of those positions is really needed, like we have some sort of record year and we're like, hey, we really have to do this, we can use cash to bring that person in for the first year and then relook at it for 26. But I think that's a good way to maybe, block and tackle to try to avoid any kind of increase this year. But I just don't see where, I understand it's 112 a month total, but whatever it was, 120 a year. It may not be much for some of us up here, but for a lot of people in town it is. So I just don't see the fact or I think there's other ways to get there with keeping it flat. So that's just where I'm at with this right now.
I will, and we say it's not a debate and to give a text. I'm not going to debate you. I'm going to say,
Yeah.
Being the most in-depth person to this budget, I cannot stand here tonight and tell you I can accomplish that. Can we eliminate a position here or there? Absolutely. I think we'll be adding them back another time. But I don't feel it's getting us to 450,000 very easily. I think it'll be far more painful than that. And then, but if we choose to do something like that, some of those decisions will come back to you
Yeah.
to make.
I also think, maybe pausing that contract and pulling it from the budget, the 90,000. In my world, 6 months or so, you should have at least some traction. And if we haven't gotten really anything besides some pamphlets and maybe some website work, I just don't think it's worth that much. Maybe we look at restructuring, but at least pulling it for now, and then we can go through and restructure and maybe in 6 months look at, again, we have some cash for small stuff like this that I think we can, if we're like, hey, we really want to get back into it because he's got some good prospects out there, but that's an easy 90 right there. And then, these all in for some of these positions that are vacant that maybe have never been filled or maybe we can live without for now. I don't know. I know a couple of these are in Pat's department. Pat, what's your opinion on some of these?
Well, Michael, okay, thanks. Yeah, we've not planned on hiring anybody at this point. If you can look back in the past budgets, we've always carried on just in case of what you said of a record year or boom year or whatever. So at this point, I have not made any decision to even look to hire anybody else for next year, unless things really take off. So I'm assuming that you're talking about the building inspector.
Yeah, billing inspector, and then I guess city planner, wouldn't that be in your department, or is that in the admin?
Planner as
Yeah,
well.
so, there's another couple hundred, I mean, that's just, I know it's getting skinny, I know it's not fun, I know it's, I want to keep it away from the health benefits and all, I mean, I don't want to change any of that stuff, so these are kind of the areas I see some flexibility of where we can maybe figure it out, but again, that's just my personal opinion, and I'm one of, 5 up here right now, so that's just where I'm at with it.
I have a question just in regard, well, it's not a question, it's more of a statement. So basically, if we don't fill those positions, that would free how much?
Roughly 500,000, but I really want to point something out to you.
Yeah.
One of those positions is a police officer. I don't think it's in the best interest of the city and the way that it's expanded to further reduce our police staff. One of those is in the streets department. As our city expands and we have more streets to care for and plow and more parks and things, I don't think that's the best interest of the city. So I can tell you the total. However, just to carte blanche say those 5 positions can go, I think we have to go one by one. I really do.
Well, and if we're looking
I
for
agree with
540, that puts us at 670 between those 6 things. So we've got some flexibility to keep maybe the police officer position, which is probably where I'd be, or the maintenance. Those are the 2 that I would, street worker or police officer would be the ones that I would want. One of those ones I'd want to keep. But I think the rest of them I think are, and again, it's one of those things. If we found funding to do all this maintenance work and we want to hire somebody for street work, we've got cash, so we can say, hey, can we adjust the budget mid-year with some cash, or is that a possibility if there's things that change in March of 25? I know we've adjusted in the past when I've been up here, so.
Yes, you can always adjust your budget. We give you authority. Not every decision comes in this room because you approve other things. You approve a salary resolution, and things like that. I would say tonight it isn't to worry about those details. If you choose not to do the mill levy increase and you bring the challenge back to us, we'll have to come back to you to go forward to say, here are all the pieces it would take to get there or not get there.
Yeah.
We would bring you other details to help us make that decision about moving forward.
Okay.
I think my personal opinion, I don't think we can cut a police officer out of there. I think I think the request was for more than we even have now. And I think to go backwards, especially in the police department, I think would be a bad decision and a wrong decision. As fast as our community is growing, I don't think they already have a big enough challenge having enough officers on duty with the ones they have now being short one. And so I think pulling that position back would be a detriment to our community as far as safety is concerned. And then also with the Public Works Department, and we're taking on more mileage every year of roads that we have to maintain. And I think taking that position back, I think would also take us in reverse. We're already behind the times and trying to get all the stuff done with roads that we have going. And we've made a big improvement in that in the last 2.5, 3 years. And I would hate to go backwards with that as well. So those 2 positions, I definitely have a very strong opinion on those.
I'll tell you, just to throw a little statistic to you, our staffing really has not moved since 2015. So think about everything we've done in this community since 2015 and kept our employee count in general at the same place. Your service levels, I'd like to think, are up. We do more streets, we plow more snow, all that kind of thing. But we're doing it with the same level of staff we had in 2015. Some places 2008.
Is there any way you can bring up the and I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but just the open positions that we're speaking of, just so if people are in the room and want to see those and.
Two things, I don't have it with me, and
Okay.
the second thing, I don't have it with me, is the best way to say that.
The math I did, if we kept the street worker and the police officer, we still have a savings of 458. So we're definitely a lot closer to that than not. So that's just where I'm at with it. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments up here? Give everybody a chance to speak their opinion.
My opinion is different. I'm in favor of the budget as it's being presented. Staffing cuts, I think, would fall into the very painful category for me. I think some of them are even regressive too, like you're talking about with a couple of spots. We have stayed relatively the same on our staff levels for several years now. I think we produce more work than most other agencies. I think most other agencies with our budget size and our population size are likely to have more staff than we do. So I do think that we're behind on staff, and considering cutting positions that we need and have talked about over time, why we need them, is not a great idea. We asked, at the last time we talked about these, we asked for a cash balance with raise, and you've provided that. You were also able to shave 0.15 mils off of the cap that we set. So you're able to come in a little bit lower than the cap, which is excellent. The cash balance that you used is 1.4 million. We talked about it being somewhere between 1 and 2. So that's almost directly in the middle. So I feel like the staff has done the work that we have asked them to do. They have provided the answers that we have asked for, and that's what this is. I think that this budget is also the best pathway forward for the projects that we have prioritized and the things that we want to do. And I think this budget is 100% about CIP and infrastructure. We've said before that our operating budget will likely be just fine as it grows year after year at a similar mill levy that we're at right now. We also know that we have been unable to complete CIP projects because the money's not there. And this is a first step. This is a step getting us towards the money being there. And the wants and needs that we hear sometimes on a daily basis, sometimes on a weekly, sometimes on a monthly, are CIP and infrastructure. And that's what this increase is for. So I feel like we are delivering what people are asking for. Is it uncomfortable? Absolutely. It is not a comfortable pathway. I have experienced, back-to-back years of 20% valuation increases on my own property. These taxes hit all of us, just like everybody else that's sitting in the audience. So I don't want to sit up here and try and tell people that we're all going to be excited and love this, because we're not. That's not the truth. But I do feel like it is the best pathway forward. I think our inability to do CIP and infrastructure in the past is one of the things that has really held us back from being able to develop the way that we need to. And we're finally getting ourselves into position to be able to do that. So I think this is the best way best way forward. That's really all I got.
Yeah, my thoughts are, if there's any way we can do these projects without raising the mill levy, then we should be pursuing those. I think that we have a great staff that's incredibly efficient, doing a really good job. If we could add to that, that'd be beneficial. But I also think that, look, we review this on a yearly basis, right? So in a year, y'all come back here and take a look at it and see if things need to change. But I think that if there's any way beyond raising the mill levy, then we should explore that. to get these CIP projects done. Look, 191st has to get done. To me, that's non-debatable.
Yeah.
That's not open. If you say we got to raise the mill levy to get 191st done, okay. But I don't think we're saying that. In fact, I know we're not saying that. So 183rd, I think, is a little bit. I think if we can do 191st and 183rd, it'll at least alleviate some of that problem that we have on 169. And of course, I want to do 199th as well. I think that's an issue as well. But yeah, I think whatever we can do to not raise the mill levy, it's incumbent upon us to do that. Incumbent upon me.
I'm just going to say this. I've done a lot of studying, a lot of conversation to really research this. Very difficult decision. Yes, you're correct. Sitting up in this seat is really hard tonight. I understand that it's only going to impact a household of $13 a month if you live in a $450,000 house. More, of course, if you live in a more expensive house. But I'm really concerned about our economy right now. I'm concerned about other increases that are occurring within households here. And so that's what makes the decision difficult. It's not personal.
No, I don't take it personal.
It's nothing like that. But I'm sitting in a chair and I have a vote. And like I said, I've looked at everything, and I agree with the police officer position. I think we need to keep that, and the
Public Works.
Public Works. But if they're in the other positions, that open positions that we have, as well as the inspector, that's kind of where I'm at with it too. I mean, it's a really tough decision, but again, it's just more. This is just one piece of how much more people are going to have to pay as time goes on, and so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm really having trouble supporting the mill levy increase.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion. Anybody want to tackle it?
If I make a motion, it's not going to be supported, so I'm not going to make a motion.
And I'll make one more comment before we get there.
Sure.
We've discussed the revenue neutral rate and how this impacts that. And I just think you throw all that out the door with this year. I think the revenue neutral rate's just so convoluted, and it's just not accurate. So I think the revenue neutral rate's one of those things in this situation, in this moment, is meaningless. So nobody touched on the revenue neutral rate. I just wanted to.
Yeah, I think it's fairly irrelevant. If I make a motion to deny this budget, do I just say a motion to deny, or I can't find it in here. Sorry, it's kicking me back to a different area than it usually.
Some on the screen, if that helps.
Oh, is it up here? Okay.
Or could he make a motion to approve a budget with a mill levy, setting the mill levy?
You cannot.
Can't do that?
Nope. And maybe I can alleviate this. I have an alternative I'm happy to give to you with a motion at the end of it,
Okay.
if you'd prefer. Okay.
Ears are open.
Okay. I'm gonna see it. No, it is not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the alternative is I give you a budget, which is the flat mill rate. Because I didn't use the mouse. Anyway, it's the flat mill levy at 22.964, I think. Does not include any new debt. That's why you have new debt pages there. It also shows you that the debt mill levy is the same as it was in 2024. And so this budget would be for, let's jump way ahead. This budget reduces the proposal down to $32,393,374 for your authority, which should result in the mill levy of 22.964. There are no changes to this budget. Same positions in it, same everything. If you choose to approve this and want to go forward with a project, the staff would work to try to accommodate it in the flat budget.
So then if we wanted to remove positions or do whatever we needed to do to fund projects, we would just have to figure that out internally with what we got.
Right. I don't think when you go to do that, I don't believe you'll reduce the budget. You'll just spend it in different pockets. So this would get your budget approved per the rules. And then if we need to move money around, we can do that.
I wouldn't want to approve it unless I know that the project is included. So I don't know how I mean, can I put a caveat to that when we motion to say this needs to include the 199th project and the 191st? Or would you rather us deny it and come back and see if you can fit it in? I don't want to
be
be concerned
concerned
that
that
keeps
there's
these
not a-
positions that isn't going to pay for everything. I'm asking.
I'd be a little concerned about that motion.
I'm not.
Mainly because we don't have a dedicated revenue stream.
Say it's not funded, so it'd be hard to.
That would have to come back to the government. We could take that away from this meeting and then strive towards that. But if we were unable to find the funding to make that happen, let's say the project comes in $2 million higher, then we would have to come back to the governing body and they would have to make that decision based on the actual cost of the project. The one thing I do want to point out is with going this direction by removing that, say, $500,000 to $600,000 and doing that project, that's a 10-year commitment on those funds. So those positions or those cuts within the budget, that's at a minimum 10-year or 15 or 20, depending on what the bond length is. So it's not just a 1 year.
Well, this budget's in 1 year.
Right, but
So
to do the
that's
project is a
yeah.
10-year commitment.
I get it, but the budget's 1 year. So we're not talking about for the next 10 years, we're going to do this, but for this year,
Right.
I feel like this is the right way to go. So that's where it's like, I get that, and we've talked at length about this and gone back and forth. And for me, it's like, okay, well, let's get through this year, see what happens, see how the economy does. And then we pivot next year. And but I wouldn't want to blindly approve a budget that doesn't say that already in there, that we're going to find the funding for it, because I don't want to slow that project up. So I'd rather decline it if we have to do a special meeting next week or whatever to get it adjusted and approved.
What's the date that we have to have this?
It has to be to the county clerk on October 1st.
It's Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing is, you're approving an authority to expend money. You're really not deciding what bucket it goes in beyond the details, the high-level details you're provided there. So we can move that around.
All we're changing is the revenue. So like the details within our budget, that's our prerogative to decide,
They still have to come to us.
So we can set the revenue level tonight
Okay.
and approve a budget, and then we can adjust our budget internally on, we're gonna have to decide what to not spend that money on
Okay.
now.
Yeah, we're just basically setting the cap.
Okay.
That's pretty much
Right, which was why I was, can't we just set the mill levy?
And I'm fine with that. I just wanted to make sure that everything else wasn't stuck in place, because that's what I don't want. I want to still have the flexibility to move it how we decide to move it.
Right. You're giving yourselves authority to spend.
So we're just,
Yeah, we can take out a
approval-
position anytime we want.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
Essentially.
Or not hire them. That's
Right.
one way we've done it in the
Yeah.
past.
Okay. Then I'm fine with that.
Any other questions or comments? If not, if somebody wants to tackle that motion, now would be the time.
And it's 22,964.
I have to point something out. We do not set the mill levy here. The county sets it. So you need to
So we're using a
reference.
dollar?
You need to reference the dollar amount,
Yeah.
that's what we're telling the county we're going to spend. And they'll come back with the mill levy, I believe, in the range I've provided.
What's the dollar amount for 22.964?
32,393,374.
Okay.
And what was the dollar amount on 20,
Here you go.
I missed the alternative.
Yeah.
25?
I was thinking it was for the previous one.
The higher
That was the 32,933?
yes,
That's about $600,000 difference.
yep.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right. I move to approve the 2025 budget, setting the authority for expenditures at $32,393,374 and authorize the council members to sign the certification.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-1-0. Next, we'll move on to consider approval of resolution number 2024-R-12, adopting the 2025 through 2029 capital improvement plan, or the CIP. And Mrs. Dunn, you still have the floor.
All right. This is another set of information that you've been looking at for several months. We have not changed anything since we met in the work session. So this includes the projects. It has been through the Planning Commission, and they recommended it, I believe unanimously, that it does fall within the current comp plan categories. Of course, the dollar amounts are here. You can see where it's being spent. You can see that the majority of it gets spent on public facilities. And then I'll go to, people want to know what's there, the key projects, which is we're doubling the investment in the annual sidewalk programs. We're adding sidewalks on South Street from Mill Ridge to Webster. There are bike trails and paths in here. Planned improvements to the aquatic center as well as expansion, a wastewater treatment plant expansion. It includes the Spring Hill Municipal Complex, those improvements to 199th, the traffic lights, 207th, and then the work on eliminating the railroad crossings at grade. Those are the big ticket items, if you will, in this CIP.
I just also want to remind the public that the entire CIP is not funded, so some of these
Nope.
things are just ideas and things that we believe need to happen at some point, and some of them we do have funded and planned, and a lot of them we don't.
Right.
So, it's not approving doing all those projects right.
No, not at all. We've been really successful the last 2 years of accomplishing that first year. I come in and give updates, and you'll see some projects get set to the side for different reasons. Some move forward and get accomplished. Some get pushed to the next year, things like that. So it's a a living document that we work to accomplish. We've been doing pretty good at it the last couple of years. I hope we can do the same next year.
Well, and sometimes the priorities change depending
Right.
on what the community deems important. You know, one of the biggest thing, 191st to 169, a stoplight there, that has become probably an absolute top priority for all of us up here in the community, just because it's just an extremely dangerous intersection. And so that's really moved up the ladder in priorities. And so things like that, maybe as 4 or 5 years ago, that might not have been a very high priority. So,
I don't know that it was on the list.
yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, I don't think it really was.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
Can I answer any questions, or I open it for your discussion?
So we have a lot of stuff in 25 that we know isn't going to get funded in 25. Is that strategic in any way, or should we try to talk about moving it further back, or do we just leave it and say whatever we can fund, we fund? If not, we don't?
Typically we let it work through, if you will, before we start pushing it to other years for different reasons. I hope that as we went through and created the CIP, we were doing that, culling it to say, that's never going to happen. Railroad crossings is a great one. We had this real aggressive plan, and then we learned, I say 10-year or more, projects. So I think we do that as we go.
Okay.
If you have something on there specifically you don't want included for some reason, But we've talked about that a couple times. I don't
Yeah, I
think
just don't
that's the
see like a
issue.
municipal complex that's anywhere in the near future, stuff like that. But like you said, if we're just gonna keep moving it, it's fine. We can leave it there. It's not a big deal.
And there are always decisions, thinking the municipal complex, there'll be decisions that come in here to you
Yeah,
that can stop and slow that down as well.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think things like that, I think obviously all of us know that's not something that's not going to happen in the next year or two. I think that's something more of a long-term thing. We want to keep it on the radar, but it's not something,
Yeah.
So at least we have an idea that, maybe 5 years down the road, 10 years
Yeah.
down the road, we might need this due to the size of our city and everything. But so we want to keep it on the radar and not lose track that that's, an ultimate goal at some point.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. Just wanted to make sure.
Great.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
If not, I entertain a motion.
Move to approve resolution 2024-R-12 adopting the 2025 through 2029 capital improvement program.
I second.
It's got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. That ends that portion of formal council action this time, and we'll move on to citizen participation. This is time when the public can come speak about anything they would like to talk about. And the first person on the list is Mr. Bill Peterman. And once again, if you could state your name and your address, we would appreciate it.
Bill Peterman, 19431 West 200th Street. I'd like to thank the Planning Commission. I think they've had some hard times too, and went through a lot of stuff. And I think they passed you guys a thing I guess you're going to be voting on here today. I guess basically it breaks it down to planned or unplanned. Do we have any control of what they're doing, or are we just going to let it go? They've brought it down. Consistency with all the other subdivisions around that area are planned. So why would we want to take and say, no, we're going to make this unplanned? You do whatever you want. We trust you. And business is not a place where you want to trust people all the time. Just, here you go. Just go do what you want. We'll send you a check. So please, when you guys come to this line 10 on the formal stuff today, stop and think. That developer's not going to build a thing on there, because you're going to make it easy for him to sell it to somebody else that can do whatever he wants with it, because it's an open, a blank check. It's a blank check for him. So stop and think. Let's stay with what the Planning Commission has done. There's people on there with 13, 14, 16 years of experience, and they're pretty sharp. So stop and think. Are you going to go against them? Or are they going to have next time something comes in, they're going to say, well, let the city council decide, because they ain't going to, all they'll do is turn us away. They'll change it. Because that's the right thing. Planned or unplanned, planned is the way you want to go. Let's plan like you guys just did up there. Let's plan to have all these things go in the direction we want to. Let's spend the right amount of money and plan for all this to go in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person on the list is Logan Moore.
Sorry, I'm a bit taller than he is. I wanted to come back and reiterate that we are relaunching as a church on October the 13th. And so even here, I'm still Logan Moore, pastor of Ochiltree Baptist Church. We've been sending out some mailers over the past 6 months stating that we are changing to Generation Baptist, or just Generation Church, I'm sorry. But with that, it's not just a name change. Really, it's a philosophy change. It's a change in not just what we call ourselves, but the way we operate, the way we act. It's always exciting for me to be able to come and hear what's going on in the community, because we are a part of the community. We desperately want to serve and help promote the community. And I kind of spoke about that the last time we were here, about trying to be more relevant in the community. Today, I kind of want to talk about some changes that we're making internally. And so for a long time, the church has been a little bit on the older side, and there's nothing wrong with ministering to older people. They need the Lord as well. But the truth of the matter is, if we focus on only one age demographic, we're going to woefully misinterpret how we are to reach the next generation as well. And so one of the things that we are striving to do at Generation is be a church for all generations. And so we desire to, as I said last time, our mission statement is to transform the defeated into victorious. We are really focusing in on a reconciliatory or a restorative type of ministry, trying to help people out of tough situations to show them that the Lord's not mad at them and they can help them. And so we want to do that, one, by serving the community, but two, by giving them an opportunity to serve in a community that is focused on loving one another, that is focused on loving the community around them, and bonding together in unity to promote a love of one another. And so I just want to invite everybody, again, we are relaunching on October the 13th. Our services will start at 11 a.m. And so the whole community is invited, and we'd love to have each and every one of you there. But we'll have some food trucks, we'll have some things that are going on, and just kind of come see that the Lord is still moving and getting after things. And so that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next person on the list is Mr. Aravalo, but you were speaking about the other one. Did you want to speak on this one as well? Okay. We'll jump over that one. And next on the list is Jim Gooden.
Fall asleep. First, I have to say, Ms. Dunn, that I feel your pain on the computer. You know the old saying, to err is human, to really mess things up takes a computer. You can use other words, of course, and depending on your company, of course. My name is Jim Gooden. I live at 17221 West 197th Terrace. I've been a citizen of the community for about 5 years now. Thank you for the opportunity to share my concerns about the requested rezoning request on 199th Street, East Renner. I'd like to begin by asking that you deny this request, this rezoning request, for a number of reasons. Over the past 5 years as a Spring Hill resident, I've attended a number of council or planning meetings, talked to Pat a number of times, and it's addressing this property. Many years ago, the staff obviously had a vision for this current zoning, and it's appropriate for the area, as the gentleman earlier said. I support maintaining the current zoning position as a good fit for positive growth in this area, and the zoning allows for a small number of rental properties in that area, which I know has been a big concern from parts of our community wanting more of that. I'd also like to point out that there are at least 2 other approved large multifamily complexes that have been approved here in the city. One meeting I was at 5 years ago that's over here on Webster. I believe another one is over here by the school, the elementary school there off of Ridgeview. My background basically is I'm a retired police sergeant, 30 years of service in a city of 100,000 people. I was a supervisor overseeing the community policing unit, and I'm also was certified in crime-free multi-housing and a program called CEPTED, Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. Much of my career was dealing with problem solving and dealing with rental property.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
I've also served as a city council member, so I've actually sat in your seats. A much smaller town, about a quarter of the size of Spring Hill. This was up in Iowa. I feel for you for the budget. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I'm very concerned about the recent request for the development of this high-density housing property. I'd like to share some of my experiences based upon my past career. I've seen good neighborhoods turn to bad neighborhoods with property that have gone downhill. They had good intentions. They come in, they give us a good song and dance about how great it's going to be for everyone. But then reality sets in several years down the road. My first apartment was actually in a neighborhood kind of like what they're proposing over here. A rental property. They were 6plexes, and saw a lot of things happen. That was before I got on the police department. The new development had both single family homes and multi 6plex homes that were less than a year old. I mean, so it was a new addition that just had come online. One of my first experiences, before I was on the police department, was New Year's Eve. Watched a lot of suspicious activity going on across the street. Now, granted, this area is less than a year old, and there was a lot of coming and going from one apartment across the street from us. Turns out to be a prostitution situation. So newness doesn't necessarily equate to safer. I moved out of that apartment after my 1-year lease was up, pretty much, and joined the police department. The area still has I still have my contacts up there. The area still has problems 45 years after this was developed. There's a lot of community policing resources still being put into this area. So, again, rental properties can have problems. I'm sorry?
Just a 1-minute warning.
Okay, if I ask for an extension?
We don't do extension.
Okay, all right. So anyway, the bottom line is I really don't think that it's a good fit for the community. I think what's actually already zoned for it is what we need. So in conclusion, I believe that we all want positive growth. I believe this property is not a good fit for that growth in our community here. The area has other places, multifamily places that's already been approved. And the Planning and Zone Commission has also voted to deny this. I know it's been kind of a political or a little bit of a football. And I would again ask you to consider these issues and deny this rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next person on the list is Wayne Bennett.
Hello, good evening. My name is Wayne Bennett, 17119 West 197th Terrace. Once again, I am here to voice my opposition to the rezoning application Z-24-4. Not going to go into the reasons why, just really want to go through a timeline with you all. July 2nd, we were at the Planning Commission meeting. The Planning Commission gave the TH Investments, the developer, 4 out of the 5 requests that he asked for. The one that he didn't get was the one changing the zoning to R4, multifamily. What's noteworthy is that was the second time that it was denied, because I remember going to Planning Commission probably about 3 years ago. Different developer, but the same premise. They wanted a zoning variance, and it was shot down. Then on July 25th, it came to the City Council. You guys remanded it back to the Planning Commission. Some comments that were made that night, one was by staff. This developer has always been fair, willing to work with us. One of you council members said that you are not, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, never in favor of opposing the Planning Commission. We count on their expertise. But nevertheless, I think you wanted more information from the Planning Commission. August 6th, Planning Commission. Again, paraphrasing, but what I remember is staff said that the developer is not required to provide additional information, because after all, this is just for a zoning variance. So you guys remanded it back to Planning Commission, wanted more information. In my opinion, the developer or staff didn't think that more information was necessary. And I think it was Commissioner Earhart that said we zoned it correctly 5-6 years ago. And he even remembered shooting it down 3 or so many years ago. And once again, it was denied pursuant to Golden Rule 2 and 3. All right, so they're following all the rules. And, you guys can do the same thing I did. Go online, look at the minutes and whatnot. August 22nd, City Council meeting. We all showed up again because we were expecting that the City Council, now that it was shut down twice by the Planning Commission, would deny it. Just be done with it. we were frustrated because we were learned that it wasn't even going to come in front of the city council because they were giving the developer time to get more information. Again, this is what I remember. This is what I heard. I don't know how much of that is true. But I think it's ironic. He had his chance to provide additional information, but somebody felt it wasn't necessary for them to provide that information. But you guys gave him a chance to get even more information. Presumably, he will bring some more information tonight, to which I say he had his chance, to which I say, who cares? To which I say, we have made our position clear. We don't want this. The citizens don't want this. And yes, we want growth. And yes, we know that that property is going to be developed eventually. We just don't want multifamily. I got nothing against multifamily, but as my neighbor Jim pointed out, there are certain issues that come with that, one of which is driving down property values. I question the developer's intentions, once he gets everything chopped up the way he wants it, this is multifamily, this is denser housing, this is, commercial. Then will he develop it? I don't know that he has a track record of that. I think he'll chop it up and sell it off. I will end with, trust the Planning Commission. Please deny it once and for all. And then just a side note, I want to thank you for not approving the budget. I didn't really prepare to come here to talk about that. And I guess I take comfort in fact that it's only an extra $13 an extra month had you approved it. But you know what? My gas has gone up. My groceries have gone up. My car insurance has gone up. My life insurance has gone up. It may not seem like a lot, but when we're paying all of that, that just is just one more insult. I yield. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next person on the list is Greg Ensuro. Might have butchered your last name, but hopefully I got it correct.
That's okay. I'm happy with anything that sounds like it starts with a vowel. So I'm really good with that. Yeah, my name is Greg Ensuro. I live at 19700 West 197th. I'm sorry, 19200 West 197th place. I wanted to tell you how excited I am to be spending my birthday here with you tonight.
Happy birthday.
I would much rather be sitting in front of a steak and a bourbon, but this is where we're at. All right. I want to also start out, I sent you all a letter earlier in the week. Hopefully you had a chance to look at it. I drew you a really nice map of the area and tried to overlay what's in the CIP on top of that map for a better picture of the planning. I'm not going to go through the entire letter. I just wanted to point out a few things. I'm not opposed to the development. I'm actually very proud that Spring Hill is one of the fastest growing cities in the Kansas City metro area. I think that's really cool. But I think we need to make sure that we stop and have a really solid plan for infrastructure and safety and all the things that go along with growth to make sure that we can support that growth. I believe that in this area, at this point in time, there's a lack of infrastructure, and I don't believe that we have an adequate plan for this high of density. We've got potentially 500 plus doors that would go in with the multifamily. And so I do agree with what was said earlier, that planned would be much better. It gives you more visibility, gives you more control over what's going on, especially with all the other approved subdivisions that are going in the area. The plans for the road, all anybody ever wants to talk about is the 0.9 miles that runs across 199th Street. That's great. But it just seems like with what's in the CIP, and do you have a copy of the map that was sent? I mean, if you look at that map, it just seems like, everything is creating collector streets, and nobody's thinking about north and south. So everything's being funneled to Ridgeview to go to the north, or it's being funneled to 169, where a lot of people are afraid to really drive on that high speed without the traffic lights. And the traffic lights that are there at 159th Street, you're sitting 3-4 traffic lights sometimes just to get to I-35. So we prefer to go up Ridgeview or Lackman when we can get there. Due to the road construction that's going on. But Ridgeview is not even capable of handling today's peak. If you've ever been on Ridgeview between 199th and 191st Street, when it's pickup time or drop-off time for the schools, there's 3 schools in the area, you are going to sit and sit and sit. So it can't handle that, and I don't see a plan to make it any better. So that's one thing. We talk a lot about collector streets and the design criteria for collector streets and the master plan for the city talks about 199th being a collector street. It's not a collector street. It's a major thoroughfare. It's a major artery between 169 and 69 Highway. That's how people get east to west. Further, the design criteria talks about 25 to 30 miles per hour. That's been 45 miles an hour, and nobody goes that slow. And you always see the issues with trucks falling off the side of the road because there are no shoulders, so the ditches are deep, and we'll close down an entire mile square to go pull the truck out every few weeks. We talked about Ridgeview. There's no plans for Renner to go north and south. It's gravel for 2 miles. I don't see anything on Renner. I don't see anything on Woodland. Woodland's tough enough to get across to 199th Street because of the little overpass kind of a thing. That's an issue as well. Let's see. Schools we've talked about. I'll let the school district deal with that, but I just little concerned that most of these subdivisions, multifamily family housing, all focus on small families with smaller children. Where are you going to school them all? Are you going to bus them across the highway? I don't know. And then finally, the thing that really hits me close to home are the safety concerns. Right, Norton Street that leads out of our subdivision, Prairie Ridge, and would be where the main exit for this multifamily housing run nose to nose. We have one exit. I don't know how that got approved, but it did. My fear is that someday there's going to be a fatality accident that happens in that intersection, and then somebody's going to have a house fire or somebody's going to have a heart attack or something like that in my neighborhood, and first responders are not going to be able to get to the people. Who owns that? Whose responsibility? Who has the liability for when that happens? We brought this.
Your time. If you could try to wrap it up real quick.
Well, and like I said, I want to echo what Mr. Peterman said. You know, what you all do, what everybody does on the planning commission, on the city council, it's a thankless job. Tough job tonight. You gotta talk about money. I hate talking about money, but you have to do it. You have to make the hard decisions. I'm asking you to do what's right. High density was not a good idea, as was spoken before back then. It's not a good idea today. Thank you.
Thank you. The last person we have on the list is Chris Peterman.
I got it. Chris Peterman, 17219 West, you don't need all that, do you? West 197th Street. Guys, I'm going to reiterate what my neighbors are saying, and I've had a chance to visit with a few of you, and I appreciate everybody's time. Please deny the rezoning of the 43 acres to R4. It's currently zoned RP1, RP2, and CP2. That's how it should stay. There's up to 14 homes or 14 front doors per acre with R4, right? So we're talking about the potential for 605 front doors additionally in 43 acres. I think there's 700 doors with the current 500 acre plot. We're almost going to double that just in this 43 acre section. Again, the neighbors have touched on all this, but we got 0.9 miles that we're going to look at taking to 4 lane. I heard Super 2 and I also heard 4 lanes. That only runs from Renner to Ridgeview. That's 0.9 miles. That's not enough. Greg did a great job explaining all that. We do have, and we've touched on these as well, but we've got the apartments that have already been approved south of Quick Trip with Preeb Homes. I know they've got some other things going on right now. Economy is also maybe in a bit of question. So will they come? Will they not come? It's already been approved. Maybe we should focus some energy towards that. It's, again, already been approved. How about we get that development moving? That didn't come with any rebuttal from anybody. I spoke with the Kuzi family, who helps manage. Grant is the developer, and that Black Hawk Apartments, they do not have a waiting list.
That's a fact. There's no waiting list there. So do we need apartments? I understand we need some lower income housing, but it's got to be in the right location. It's got to be in the right location. Across from our entrance is not the right location. There's also probably an aesthetic look there, value. We're going to have 43 acres of apartments, multifamily, right at the entrance of this 500-acre development. Very grateful for the C2, right? I mean, I think we all are excited about that. Restaurants, grocery stores, small strip shops, right? That's encouraging. It's very encouraging. I understand you have to have folks there to help keep that going. But again, as Greg mentioned, if you want to head east, it's closed right now for a couple months. Is that culvert work? Is that being designed right now for 4 lanes or Super 2? Will that continue on down? Or are we just going to keep, we're going to make sure that this 500 acres only has the 0.9 miles that we're going to go to a Super 2 or 4 lanes? And then obviously if you go north right there on Renner, it is 2 miles of gravel. What is the plan for that, right? I apologize for repeating all this, that they're great points. So again, I go back to, with talking with them at Blackhawk, they've done a really nice job, and Grant as a developer is still around. You don't get that very often, right? I think that's why they're so nice and they're well kept. That's what we'd like to see with any housing anywhere. We've discussed planned and unplanned. You guys, obviously, the city, planning commission, and council, they lose a little bit and they gain a little bit. A planned district is the way I believe it should be represented. Unplanned, we're going to lose a little bit. You guys won't have the say as much to what needs to be and how you'd like to see it. The aesthetics, the landscaping, the setbacks are all values of a planned district, and you guys can dictate that. And then, again, if this multifamily is necessary, not in that area, those 43 acres, what are additional plans? Has that been discussed? I understand that there are, all the other zones have been approved by you guys, but what other options do we have? Can we look at other locations? Can we take that 43 acres and can we move that somewhere else? Can we move those additional 605 doors somewhere else on the property that makes more sense, that looks more aesthetically pleasing to everybody? Again, the senior villas, that's something that there is a waiting list on as far as the Blackhawk and Grant and all his doing. Those senior villas, they do have a waiting list. Have we discussed that? Can we discuss that? Can we discuss maintenance provided? What else can we have as an option as opposed to just apartments to bring folks here? Again, I believe we can do better and we can have a better vision. So if you guys would deny the rezoning of the 43 acres to R4, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is everyone we had on the list, but if there's anyone else in the audience that would like to step up, now would be your time. And once again, if you could state your name and your address, please.
Lou. Forgive me for getting here late. I couldn't sign in. Otherwise, I would have. John Pullman, 19807 Barstow. Live across the road in Prairie Ridge. Listen to your planning commission. We've been here years ago, several times this year. I'm not going to repeat what my neighbors also eloquently said, but I kind of look at it from the viewpoint of the landowner. Landowner knew what the zoning was when they bought this. They've continued to amalgamate more land around it. Good for them. I'm a capitalist. I can't wait for this to be developed. What has the city council given this developer? They've more than doubled the commercial space for him to develop. They've more than doubled the R2. R4 isn't appropriate here. We don't need it. And I ask you to listen to your planning commission. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, we'll go ahead and close citizen participation at this time and move on to the consent agenda. These are items that the staff considers to be routine maintenance, but if there's any questions or comments, now would be the time. If not, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, we'll move on to further formal council action. The first item on the agenda is consider approval of ordinance number 2024-08, rezoning application Z-24-4 from RR to RP1, RP2, and CP2 to R4. Renner Road between 199th Street and 207th Street with Mr. Harold Phelps. And Mr. Burton, you have the floor.
Good evening. Thank you. This item has been placed before you on rezoning to a straight R4 district. It's, if you take the right of way out, it's about 40 acres plus or minus out of a 400 plus or minus development. The Planning Commission on August 6th had a special meeting, and it was there was a unanimous motion to deny the approval of rezoning. And the developer has asked that it go ahead and be presented to you at the council meeting. And I believe the developer has some additional information that he would like to present, if that would be okay, sir.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Phelps. I apologize. It's the applicant, not the developer. Mr. Phelps is the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Harold Phelps. I am representing THS Investments this evening, which is Tom Smith. Tom has done several projects in here in the city of Spring Hill. He's done a number of projects around the Midwest, but he's in the last couple of years concentrated more in the Spring Hill area. The particular projects is Woodland Crossing at 199th and Woodland, and the Fox Hollow project, which is still kind of getting off the ground on 207th Street. This project, as has been indicated, is just short of 400 acres. It's a planned development. It's a master plan development. The idea is to provide a mix of uses so that it all works together. This is not a project that happens overnight. Bottom line is this is easily a 10 to 15 year project. So with 615 single family homes, 90 twin villas, 84 acres of commercial, and 43 acres of what is being requested this evening as R4. The uses in this project are really pretty varied in that we have a variety of housing. We have 50-foot lots. We have 60-foot lots, and we have 75-foot standard R1 lots. In the RP1 specifically are the 50 and 60-foot lots. So we went to the planned district to get a reduction in the size of the lot. But again, it gives us a variation of product when we have 615 houses. Included in this overall project, as has been indicated, we'll have the commercial. We'll have the twin villas, the single family, senior living, recreational facilities, and then the multifamily area that we're talking about tonight, we expect to be townhomes and apartments, a mix of each. In the master plan, we're looking at a master home association to maintain the area. We have significant streamways. In fact, open areas, we have about 80 acres of open area in the overall area. We'll have ponds, walking paths, clubhouse, swimming pools, recreational facilities, including pickleball, playgrounds, that sort of thing. If we get back and we start to look at the 43 acres that we've zoned, so everybody understands, when we do zoning the zoning lines go to the adjacent zoning line so that they're all contiguous, so we don't have gaps in between. So the 43 acres that is this tract right here goes to the center line of the creek, goes to the center line of the roads adjacent to it. So the net acreage that we've got, really the net developable acres, is about 32 acres. If we start looking at a density of around 12 units per acre, that's kind of a standard garden type apartment density, we end up with 384 houses or 384 units. We don't end up with 700 or 800 units as has been stated. We would expect the project to develop in multiple phases with 384, 400 units. That's typically two projects. Nobody typically does projects that are less than 200 units simply because the numbers don't work for managing a project. I'd also like to point out that the 40 acres, if we do the simple math, is about 10% of the overall project area. So in a master plan development, we're looking at 10% of the project being multifamily. You know, the question has come up, a planned district versus straight R district. As I stated earlier, we had asked for exceptions when we asked for the planned district in the in the RP1. So we got exceptions on setbacks and we got exceptions on the lot size. We're not asking for any exceptions here. Your code clearly defines what the expectation of R4 is. So when you say that we're, you know, you're just carte blanche giving us approval on a project, you're not. Basically, you're saying you have to follow our code with no exceptions. Now, even with that said, we still have to come before the Planning Commission and City Council with a plan. So it's not carte blanche that all we have to do is submit a plan and we get issued a building permit and we go out and build a project. So whether it's planned or whether it's straight zoning, today what we're trying to do is establish the use on this property in an overall master plan development. So that we can establish with our neighbors, we can establish with the future property owners what this land use is. You know, Black Hawk has been mentioned tonight as a successful project, and we agree. And we feel, and I think staff feels, and I think you all feel as well, that Black Hawk has set a standard for Spring Hill, and we would agree with that. And when it comes down to landscaping and setbacks and all those things, we're going to use that as an example. That'll be the example that we use and I think is expected of us based on what we've been directed. I think there's been an issue or a question about infrastructure as well, so I'd like to address infrastructure quickly. This property has everything in place as far as utilities for this project, for the entire master plan development. Sanitary sewers were built there some time back as a special benefit area. This overall property pays in excess of $40,000 a year for the right or the access to those sanitary sewers. There's water lines in the area all the way around the property, which have a benefit area so that when this developer develops the property, they have to pay off those benefit area costs as well. There's no free ride for the developer either. The city has an excise tax of 15.8 cents per square foot. So when we develop, when we plat, and it'll be done in phases, each phase or each plat will pay 15.8 cents a square foot for the ground. So for the 400 acres, that's close to $2.7 million that would be obligated to either pay the excise tax or make arterial improvements to your city. So again, there's no free ride. In addition, I did check with staff, and even on this R4 area, There's about $2.4 million in sewer connection fees that would be charged to this property for the project. Now, again, this is a 10 to 15-year project. And to kind of wrap things up, we see this project being staged. We started the south end with single-family residential. As we move north, I think the residents in this area would appreciate, and certainly new residents for this master plan would appreciate commercial on that corner. But we're not going to get commercial until we have a significant amount of rooftops out there. And so what we would see happening is we'd see development maybe a part of the commercial area until we get additional rooftops and apartments or additional units to support that commercial. So it'll be kind of a chicken and egg thing on how the multifamily and how the commercial would develop. But it's all integrated together. It's all one plan. Yes, there was a previous plan. And Tom has acquired the property in probably 3 or 4 different tracks. But Tom is committed to starting the project and getting the project going, again, at the south end of the project with the single family and moving north. As I stated in Planning Commission, Tom won't start the project, the apartments or the commercial until 199th Street's in place. We understand there's considerable concern about 199th Street improvements, and we're committed to make that agreement. So with that, we understand the commitment and the expectations that the city has for an apartment project. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any immediate question, but just a statement. As stated before, we do greatly, this is my personal opinion, we greatly respect the Planning Commission. I think they do a wonderful job for us. I respect each person's opinion up there. Overall, I generally agree with them. I do believe on this particular one, they got it wrong. I do think that for the overall plan, this does make sense. Using the Blackhawk, reference that's been referenced a lot, at the time, there was very little support around that project as well. A lot of people said it would, their property values would go down. It would be, crime, all this other stuff that was said at the time, and none of that has materialized. It's been an overwhelming success and been a huge asset to our community. And apartments is something that we need. It is something that we don't have a lot of. And so I do think it is important to this overall master plan. I do understand the community's input on it. I definitely, take that to heart for sure. But I do think this particular time, the Planning Commission did get it wrong. Anybody else?
Sure, yeah. I have some questions. And I don't know if I start with you or this is a question for Lane or Spencer, but I took down notes when everybody got up front talking. And I would like to be respectful and get those questions answered because I don't have the answer to them. So the first one is, whose responsibility is it for Prairie Ridge just having the one entrance? And I thought I heard somebody tell me there's actually 2 entrances.
No. I think that was developed 20-ish years ago. Yeah, so it may have been allowed by code at that time. I will say I understand the comment, but as we talk about a rezoning for this parcel tonight,
I understand.
The entrances and exits out of an adjacent development is not one of our golden factors.
Okay. So, Okay, so you did a good job at explaining the difference between the 2 zonings, because that was going to be my question. I just wanted for sure people to understand. And then you prefaced the part about the site plan having to go through the Planning Commission and also the council. So when you look at the way it's zoned now to the R4, is the biggest difference the apartments? Is that the main difference between the 2? If you were just to say a couple statements between the 2 of how it's zoned now and then the R4 proposal?
Yeah, so keep in mind when the zoning was approved that has been discussed was just this 80 acres right here.
Okay.
Okay, so it didn't include all the rest of the property. So it didn't have all the single family component to go along with it. So in this area right here, I believe the frontage was probably commercial, and I'm going back a ways because that's been probably 15 years ago as well. But I want to say the front part was commercial and the back part was multifamily or smaller RP1.
Okay. You covered the density issue for me. So on the 32 acres, so the 40 and then it goes down to 32, it's actually 384 units, 12 units per an acre. Is there anything else you want to add to that just to get, because density is an issue. This is an issue that I see in emails. This is an issue when people call me. Anything else you want to say to that?
Yeah, I think again, to make it clear, when we look at what the usable ground is, there's a power line easement that goes through the middle of it. There's a stream corridor that goes through it. I think if you get 400 units on this, you're maximizing this property.
I have more questions, but I don't want to be a mic hog here.
Go ahead.
Are you guys
Go for it.
okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We're good. We're here for the long haul.
So one of the things that you said is you're not going to do, or the apartments will not be constructed until 199th is, the infrastructure for 199th is completed. So I need you to be more specific. is that just specific to the 0.9 miles? Or is that specific to what the county, the piece of road that we don't have control over after Renner Road? Because that's county. So did that include
I
that?
appreciate that, and I didn't
Yeah.
make that real clear. What I was indicating was the adjacent roadway, the improvement of the adjacent roadway. I know the county is working on surveys to add shoulders to that part to the east over to 69 Highway. But I don't even know what that time frame is. But I was referring specifically to the part that fronted this property.
The 0.9 miles.
Yes.
Okay. And this may not be a question for you, the culvert that's getting worked on, is that in terms of the work that's being done there, is that for 2 or 4 lanes? Do you know? Somebody mentioned that and I didn't know.
It's 2 lane. It'd be similar project to what they did on west of 190, expanding that shoulder.
Yeah, putting shoulders.
Okay. I didn't know because I don't go on that road very often, so I didn't know. And then are there current plans for Renner Road? I know it's gravel right now. Is there any proposed plans or?
Not at this time. It's in the county at this time. However, if that parcel of property that's adjacent to it were to develop out, then we would work with the developer to extend that road to the north.
Okay. And then my last question is for Chief. Chief? So I have a question. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I can ask this, but one of the comments was made about crime and prostitution. Can I ask her questions about that in reference to?
Blackhawk, or I was going to ask if there's an uptick in crime in the Blackhawk area since the apartments have been there relative to before.
No, there hasn't been. I do not consider Blackhawk a hot spot with regard to crime.
Okay.
And I did not catch the comment about prostitution.
I think you were gone. You were out when they.
Oh.
It was just a reference to an apartment complex he lived in a while back, and that even though they were brand new, there were still issues with crime and things like that, even the first year or two of development. So, just trying to find out if we see that same issue with what we've got, like Blackhawk. I mean, Blackhawk's probably the most similar to what this would be.
We do not have significant call load at Blackhawk.
Okay.
And just to close that loop, I didn't stop you to say yes, that was a fine question. That is one of the golden factors of the relative gain to public health and safety. So fair game.
Yeah, that was a question I had.
Yeah, same question.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop with the questions and you guys go ahead. I just want to make sure that they got answered.
Good job.
I drove by there a few times today just to kind of get a lay of the land a little bit more. When I look at it from 199th Street, that real big power line that kind of goes diagonally through it seems to split it a bit. I can't imagine you'd build anything directly underneath it. So I'm guessing there's going to be a little bit of a gap between whatever is kind of on the south side of that and what's on the north side of that to 199th. When you talk about the different ways you can develop it and you talk about townhomes or things like that, is that kind of what you're thinking? Is that north side because it's so small and it's going to be harder to fit actual apartments there?
Yeah, no, that would make sense. As you can see on this plan, that is the confines.
That's the one I'm looking at, yeah.
Okay, so that's the confines of the overhead power easement. So the power line is within that easement. So we won't be allowed to develop within that easement. So everything to the north of that would be my best guess today is we'd end up with townhomes on that northern piece and apartments on the southern piece.
So typically in apartments, they're usually 3 stories?
That's correct.
And so I guess the request I would say when we rezone, if we're going to rezone it, is maybe on that portion, can we do like a crossover where it says there's a limitation of like a 2-story building in that area because it is what is the first thing seen by kind of the neighbors and stuff? Is that something that's possible?
I don't think we're allowed
No.
to do that.
No, okay.
No, not in a straight zoning like this.
Okay.
Can we volunteer that?
Let's say, because that's one.
Yeah, if you would like to volunteer that, yes, I mean,
Yeah.
candidly, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I appreciate him volunteering it. I don't know how legally enforceable it is down the road. I'm not trying to undercut him by any means. I just want to be realistic with you all. But we really appreciate the volunteering. So yeah, that was a great question, but you guys can't require it.
For the whole, even, okay, basically it just has to meet whatever the R4 requirements. RP4 is where we'd be able to request that more. Okay.
Even if it's on a site plan, we can't approve it?
The RP4 would have to be part of their development plan that they're bringing you.
So that would be at that time we could ask for that
Correct.
type thing.
Correct.
Okay.
But I mean, you
can ask for it.
You
They're
have a commitment
obligated to
of that's the plan.
You can ask for it.
Yeah.
Cap that, so.
Yeah. So I would say that we would respect that. And if that's the expectation, that's what we would bring in on that northern piece.
Obviously, the big thing I've heard from people is, hey, we want R2 there if we're going to have it. My personal experience with commercial, I do commercial lending on apartments and on industrial and retail and things like that. Typically, we're not going to get anybody who's going to want to move into these pad sites unless we have traditional apartments there, probably in that 200 to 400 range of doors. So I would say if we real pushed it and said, yeah, we really want R2 there, it's never going to develop out the commercial space, which is kind of a concern for me. I do like the volunteer of limiting the front end to hopefully, offset some of the view for the neighbors, but and even just the townhome portion is probably a lot more feasible or acceptable to some of the neighbors too. So.
Do you know approximately, sorry, but
No,
do you know
go ahead.
approximately how many feet that would push the apartments off of 199th Street, wherever those lines come across? Do you know an approximate? I won't hold you to it. I'm just trying to
It
visualize.
looked like a half of a football field, like 50 yards.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was figuring about.
That's why I drove by.
50 to 60 yards.
Yeah. I'm just going to say it's at a diagonal.
Right.
And I'm going to say, probably 300, 400 feet.
Say 350, 400.
Yeah, on that.
Run it
one
on
side.
Google Maps here, guessing.
Yeah, right.
Which is, if anybody's familiar with Blackhawk, that's significantly further than any of those buildings are from, the houses across the street, like significantly further.
Yeah.
I guess I'll say my piece here. My concern or issue with this has always been not, I don't have the aversion to apartment complexes or townhomes that a lot of people have spoken about tonight. My real worry was how far away from the highway is this? And is it too far away from the highway to have apartments? And it's about a straight shot, so not following all the roads, but if you straight shot it, it's about 2.25 miles from end to end. And that's a really short distance. So I think this is an appropriate zoning. I have a great deal of respect for every single one of our planning commissioners, and some of them I've had a hand in approving to get them there. And I don't have anything wrong with the work that they do. I just disagree with them on this one issue. And there'll probably be other ones that I disagree with them on. And that's okay. I feel like there is a very big need for lower priced housing options. And that is exactly what this is. People who live in apartments, they don't live there because they love apartments. They live there because that's what they can afford. And I think that we need to have some more of that. And this is a very good opportunity, in my opinion, to get some more of that. So I'm in favor of this one. Kind of how the mayor said earlier, I just think the planning commission got this one wrong. We've had 2 to 3 months to talk about this and discuss this and research this. I know I've had several phone calls, several emails, several conversations with citizens, staff, all around the board. So it's not like we've rushed through this or we've, been on a light speed with this one. I think we've taken our time. I think we've looked at it multiple times. That's where I'm at with it. And I know most of the people in the audience here will disagree with me, and that's okay too. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make me a bad person. It just means we disagree. So.
Well, and I think this is a hard decision. I think that's why we've spent so much time on it, because it's not something that we can just immediately say yes or no on. I think we really needed to study it. And I think if you took out some of these components of this entire plan, it might be a different story. But I think this makes sense with everything that's going along with it. This part makes sense.
Yeah, my comment is a few people have called me concerned about, can our school system handle this many people coming in? And I think, so I've had a conversation with the superintendent. These things don't build out overnight. So their planning is pretty spot on, according to him, on how they're managing the growth. So I don't see that as an issue. My only other concern was the safety. Certainly none of us myself included, want to have any sort of crime or any sort of criminal element in any part of our city. And, that would be a concern of mine with apartments. It sounds like we don't have that problem already with our existing apartment complex. And, I'll just reiterate what Brian said. I think that, so we're trying to provide a community that a variety of people can live in, right? Whatever your socioeconomic status is, whether you're just out of school, whatever that may be, new home, $400,000 in our community. It's a lot of money, that's a lot of money for a lot of people. So, I feel like we've done our due diligence on this, and I have the utmost respect for the planning commission. I think they're almost always right in how they view things. And I share their opinion. That's why I think they're right. This one, I think that we've kicked around, we've taken it back. I think what's been presented here with the offset to the apartment complex, I think the aesthetics of it will be appealing. I think the commercial doesn't necessarily happen without this multifamily, and so we know we need and want more commercial. But that alone would be no reason to approve this. I just think that's another piece to the puzzle.
I like what Mr. Van Houten said. I do think the Planning Commission does get it right most of the time, and I think overwhelmingly we agree with them on just about every decision they make. But we're all human, and I think we make a wrong decision sometime, and I do think this one was wrong. I also, we hear from a lot of people, a lot of businesses, a lot of manufacturing companies in towns all the time. I've probably heard it, since I've been mayor, I've probably heard it over 100 times, that we need more low-cost housing. They have employees that come to them all the time and say, we would love to live in Spring Hill, but we can't afford it. And I think that's a big piece to it, is there's just not a lot of affordable housing available. And so we've done up here what we can with, getting the Wiswell project approved. But this is another piece of the puzzle, getting some more apartments approved that would provide that housing for, young families, teachers, young people. I mean, I don't know about you guys up here, but I lived in an apartment when I was young because that's what I could afford. I couldn't afford a house right away. And so I did live in an apartment, and it was great. There was things I didn't love about it, but it was a stepping stone to where, you get more established and able to move up to something different. So I think not allowing somebody else that opportunity, forcing them to drive to wherever else to where they can have something similar, I think would be a detriment. Anyone else?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, can we put that in writing somewhere of what, I get that you're probably gonna, whatever you're gonna do with the property after, if this goes through the way you want to and all that. My concern is definitely the infrastructure. And so I appreciate what you're saying of, the piece of this that's gonna cause the highest density will not be completed until the road gets extended and all that. But I'd really like to see that in writing. I'm sorry. That's just how I roll.
If I may, Mayor.
Yeah.
Sure.
Councilwoman, I understand that, and I'm not sure other than in the minutes, but keep in mind that this is still just the first step. That before we can do anything out there, we have to come back to the Planning Commission and City Council. So if it's not done when we bring it back, you can just turn it down.
Yeah, we could just deny it.
I just want to make sure. I'd like to see stuff in writing. I deal with contracts and stuff all the time, and it's not written. Sometimes it doesn't happen. So
I appreciate that.
Well, and like I said, at that point, we could just turn it down if they don't do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our job. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
I don't.
If not, I entertain a motion.
Right here. I move to approve ordinance number 2024-08 for rezoning application Z-24-4.
Second. I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, can you please take the roll?
Mr. Van Houten,
Yes.
Mrs. Feback,
Yes.
Mr. Peel,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mayor Berkey.
Yes.
Mayor, ordinance 2024-08 for rezoning application Z24-4 passes 500.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to consider the approval of a special events permit with the Glow Run 5K with the Spring Hill Recreation Commission, and I imagine Mr. Peel needs to step out for that.
I will be abstaining from this.
Excuse me. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight before you, there is an application from the Spring Hill Recreation Commission for a special event permit for a glow run. It's a 5K. It's scheduled to be on Saturday, October 12th from 6:00 p.m. to 9 p.m. All of the entities have looked at it, including the Fire District, Police Department, and Community Development Risk Manager, and they have no issues to report. No services are requested from the city, and the Rec Commission will have their truck trailing the runners with a light and signs on the truck, so they will always know where their last runner is for safety. And there is a route attached. And with that, I welcome any questions. All right, and actually, the suggestion is from staff to approve the special event.
No real questions. They did this last year too, right?
I don't know if
You
they,
didn't run?
yeah, they did, yeah, because I know that they've done it a few times.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Yes.
sure they've done it.
And then
That's
I
what
think
they
they
did last year.
asked to wear bright clothing and then they get
Yeah.
out glow sticks.
That's what I thought, yeah.
It's all,
I don't know unless somebody's chasing me.
we'll make
Yeah.
sure you're signed up.
My kids and my family have done quite a few of these, and they're kind of fun just to get because I mean everybody can do it. You know, you can walk, you can run, do just about anything, and so yeah, it's been kind of fun to join in on things. So yeah, I think it's a fun thing to have for our community.
Is it free? I was just curious.
That, I don't know. We just approved the permit since it's on the city property. As far as registration, that is through the Rec Commission, so.
Okay, I was just
I'm not really sure.
All right, you ready?
Yep. If there are no more questions or comments, I entertain a motion.
Move to approve special event permit for Spring Hill Recreation Commission's Glow Run 5K run to be held on Saturday, October 12th, 2024, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0-1.
3-0.
3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If somebody wants to give Mr. Peel. Speaking of tech thing tonight, my computer's having all kinds of problems.
It's Ashley's fault. His computer's acting up.
Welcome back, Mr. Peel. With that, we'll end formal council action this time and move on to announcements and reports. Don't really have anything other than we were able to open the fitness court to the public last night and do a little dedication for that. So that was kind of fun. If you guys don't know about it, it's a little outdoor fitness court over here that has some outdoor exercise equipment and then kind of like a exercise mat area, like where you can do yoga or stuff. And I know the Rec Commission plans on doing some programs out there, and then the rest of it's just open free to the public. So I tested out a little bit of the equipment myself. I really enjoy fitness, and so I think it's something cool that we were able to get for the community. We were able to get some grants and some other funds to where it was very low cost to us, and a big benefit for our community. So it'd be nice to have something outdoors that you can exercise and enjoy the weather while you're at it. With that, Mr. Young.
No report.
Mr. Van Houten.
I'm trying to pull it up. So I had the opportunity to be in Topeka last Wednesday or Thursday when they were doing the Build Kansas Better Fund or Build Kansas Fund. Anyway, the committee was meeting to review grants. So there was 8 grants on the, thank you. I left these with you.
Got those from the one.
Yeah, I got these from somebody, right? So I was just trying to pull it. So the Build Kansas Fund, so there was 8 applicants. Spring Hill had 2 applications on the list. So I decided to attend, see how the game is played, and both were approved. So tip of the hat to Mr. Massey and whomever else is responsible for filling out these grants. Both grants just flew through, and that was not the case for 6 other grants. And some of the other ones seem awful foolish to me. These do not. These were outstanding. So whoever's putting these together, job well done. They were approved. So I think the final approval, give you the exact number, I think it's $434,000 for the sidewalks that we discussed.
Oh,
and which is, y'all remember Sunny Spring Hill, right? When they used to have the town hall meetings for connectivity and yeah, you remember that. Okay, so we're making progress. It's slow, but it's happening. And then so that was the Safe Streets and Connections. And then, of course, the last one we discussed was the no crossings for study over the railroads. So, yeah, both of them went through. Again, great job. We're trying to get projects done without obviously raising the mill levy, without having to take money from other funds and take that state and federal money, right? That's what we need more of. So that's all I got.
Yeah, and I'll echo that with grants. I mean, that's something we've really hammered hard over the last few years with the Wiswell project, getting $2.7 million on that grant, and then getting grants here that we've been trying. And this once again for 10-foot wide trail / sidewalk that'll connect kind of further north of the town down to the southern end of 223rd Street. That's something that we've been trying to get for a long time and just really focus on trails and sidewalks and stuff like that. So getting $400 something thousand, that's not coming off of our tax roll here is a big win, and something I think all of us up here were making a big priority. So we've made roads a priority, we've made internet a priority, we've made trails and sidewalks a priority, and it's nice to seeing all that hard work over the last few years pay off.
That's right.
Mr. Peel.
It's the best weekend of the year in Spring Hill, starting tomorrow, Fall Festival. There's a golf tournament that I believe is max capacity, so it's I believe 140 some golfers playing tomorrow. That's a Chamber and Rotary combination event.
Looks like the weather's gonna be good.
Weather looks gorgeous. The rain seems to have come out of the forecast. Parade on Saturday morning. Homecoming football on Friday night. There's a bags contest or competition at the sports complex that will be streaming the football game at. Also, it's a free thing. The Ruritan's Beer Garden will be set up there, so if you want to start your fall festival a little early, you can on Friday night. Stuff in the park all day long after the parade on Saturday, which if you've never gone to the parade, go. It is the best component of this event, and it's also within the best event of the year. So then vendors and food all day long, Saturday and Sunday at the park, and then street dance. It's not really street dance anymore, but it's a park dance with live music and refreshments and food on Saturday night. So if you've never been to Fall Festival, participate in as many components as you can, because it's great.
And I believe this year we have more vendors than we've ever had by far.
Over 130.
Yep. So a lot of vendors will be out there. My family always looks forward to it every year, not only the parade, but the Fall Festival. And then also they will be showing on the big screen on Sunday for anybody that wants to come out Sunday afternoon. They will be showing the Chiefs game on a big, huge screen. So want to come out and watch the game on a big screen for free and get some food while you're at it. It'd be a good idea. So yeah, super excited about that. Shouldn't let the cat out of the bag, but I will be in the dunk tank at some point over the weekend. So
I think I'm after you. I think I'm at 7:30.
And I'm after both of you.
So those of you maybe in the audience that showed up and didn't like how we voted, you can come knock us in the tank. Yeah, be a fun time for all. So yeah, Mrs. Feedback.
So I have just a couple. One's an update. I've been following the homeless shelter in Johnson County, and that did get turned down. That was pretty much announced. I serve on the Governor's Behavioral Health Council, and I was in Topeka yesterday, and we actually had a subcommittee report. They look at the unhoused and report different services within the communities of Kansas, and so that was a topic on there. So it did get denied. So just kind of updating people with that. At the Fall Festival, I'm going to have 988 trucks out there. And so for some of you that may or may not know, there's a campaign that we have with 988. It's Suicide Prevention Month, September is. And so it's a very big deal and a good time to have a lot of awareness going on about resources that are available. And also to educate the public about suicide prevention in general. And so there's these trucks, there's 3 of them, and basically they have quotes and neon lights. And these quotes say generally what somebody says when they first dial 988. So I do call monitoring on our 988 calls, and these were the first few words that people would say, because a lot of times people have trouble getting out what they want to say when they're calling to get help. And so anyway, so we're going to be in the Fall Festival. I've got 3 drivers of these trucks, and I'm going to have me and some of my staff are going to be going and passing out 988 cards with the QR codes on there, just so somebody can get more awareness of what 988 is and how you can get resources to it. So anyway, I'm really excited, and yeah, so that's all.
Awesome. And once again, echoing Fall Festival. If you've never been, it is a huge blast. Fun for the whole family. I believe, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's the 70th year that they've done it. So they've done it for a lot of years. But anyways, biggest event of the year, lots of fun. And the weather looks like it's going to be perfect the whole weekend. So, and we've had some years where it's been a little chilly, some years where it's been pouring rain. So we've kind of had been really hot. Yeah, last year was pretty warm. So looks like it's going to be pretty good this weekend. Mr. Massey.
Just want to thank everybody that's helping out and volunteering with Fall Festival. We have some city staff that are doing that, and of course the governing body, but thanks for all the help on that.
Mr. Lau.
Excited to play golf tomorrow, and I'd like the minutes to reflect that I was probably the worst player out there. So I'm just going to go ahead and get ahead of that. You don't have to make the comment if you see me swing tomorrow, but you still can. It's not going to hurt my feelings that bad.
Chief Ensign.
There are no parking signs that are being put out for the Fall Festival activities. I hope to have some other stuff put out on social media so people can see that as well. There is a shuttle that'll be picking up here from the back parking lot of City Hall, and we encourage people to use the shuttle and or to walk because the parking and the streets, as you know, are not very wide. A lot of times people go head to head, and then you have to back up because one side of the street has got cars parked on it. We do have every member of the police department participating Friday and Saturday in some capacity, whether that's doing the security along the parade route, at the beer gardens on Friday, at the park dance on night, and several of us will be at the booth all day on Saturday. So this is a big commitment from the department every year as well. Lastly, we have National Faith in Blue coming up October 11th through the 14th. We have several churches in our community that are participating with us. This year we're doing a food drive that we're going to basically do the word's escaping me, but really hit it hard that weekend, the 11th through the 14th, at the various churches that are participating. There's a drop box here at the City Hall for Become Church, and then we'll have a drop box at the PD as well. And then we'll be handing out the donations that Thursday, the 17th, at the Spring Hill Food Pantry. So we'll have a bunch of not only police, but also members from the faith community in our area that'll be out helping out at the food pantry. So
Awesome. Madam Clerk.
I just want to, I have a certificate for your budget that you approved earlier this evening. So before you leave, please, I'll have that on the dais here shortly.
You all sign it?
Yes,
You
you all
haven't done it before.
You all.
And Mr. Burton, I'm sorry. Do you have anything? I skipped. You were hiding behind Lane. I missed you.
That's all I have.
Mrs. Dunn.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Mrs. Jones.
No report.
Mr. Spear.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Mr. Van Houten's theme of grant funding and the importance to the community. So we have a couple of grant applications pending with the Mid-America Regional Council. One of them for the East Streamway Trail project. That's part of a connection of our trail master plan. And then also an application for the 207th Street project. Both of those are pending with Mark right now, and there's a public comment period currently underway. It ends on October 4th. Those public comments are really important. They weigh heavily on the decisions. So you can go to Mark's website. It's www.marc, that's MARC.org. And it's kind of a convoluted path, but if you just go into the search bar and search for review and comment on project applications, it'll take you to it. They're listed by city alphabetically. You can just scroll all the way to the bottom. We're the very last one. But if any of you or anyone in the audience take the time to log on there and leave a comment of support, those really do, we've seen other applications that's kind of what tips the scale and helps them get that funding. So that's all I have.
All right, with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Have a good night, everyone.